Unity Church for inviting me to join you here this morning. It's a great privilege. I am very humbled by the fact that I have been requested to speak of my Buddhist practice, and as this is an interfaith gathering in the company of such great religious leaders, I'm profoundly, as I said, humble. And I must make the qualifying statement that since I am not a religious leader, as it were, I'd like to share some thoughts about my own experience regarding my own Buddhist practice. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Buddhism I practice. I'd like to tell you about my experience with 9/11 and how my Buddhist practice has allowed me to embrace the event and so many other aspects of life. And then I'd like to share some words from my mentor in life, Dr. Daisaku Ikeda, who I look as a great example when it comes to leadership, as a great human being, as an educator, and as a peacemaker. The song that you heard me perform is entitled, "Let There Be Light." And this is based on a song or an improvisation that came about from the fact that I would have won a Latin Grammy on 9/11. You see, winning a Latin Grammy on 9/11 gave a new meaning to the phrase priority shift. Because this coveted award and the possibility of winning it was the focus of practically all my attention and energy during the weeks preceding it, or leading to it. Needless to say, the images that we all saw on TV that day 10 years ago rendered the possibility of winning it or any other award meaningless. It was in the wake of this unspeakable tragedy that I was compelled to do something to make a difference, to use my musical talent in a way that could bring about a change in the lives of those who were so bereft of hope, so devoid of any sense of their own humanity, that they could be capable of committing that kind of horrific atrocity what took place that morning. And it is that responding to that sense of urgency and without any sense of logic, I went to New York City and visited different houses of worship, churches, a synagogue, a Buddhist center. And I played my flute there. I improvising, showing up and offering myself as a conduit, a channel, if you will, of whatever it was that was going on in the city at that moment. Then translated into music. I simply had to do something. And that sense to action is definitely from my Buddhist practice more by that moment. So I recorded my flute improvisations and later edited, transcribed, and rearranged them. And eventually quite a few songs were completed. And in fact, those group of songs together with a composition called the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law that I composed and performed for the Dalai Lama some years later was included in a CD entitled Dances, Prayers, and Meditations for Peace. Now, much has been said and written about 9/11. Our country and the entire world has changed in ways we could not have imagined 10 years ago. Personally, the questions I'm compelled to ask are, what is that change about, and is it for the better? Where are we now 10 years later, and what is the driving force, the underlying energy that permeates and defines who we are, how we behave, and what are we becoming? I can't help but to point out that fear continues to be the energy that runs through most of us. And as a result, it's very easy to continue that pattern of being distrustful, aggressive, irrational. And worst of all, in today's society, we seem to have lost any sense of newfound hope, which brings us right back into an alarmingly vicious circle of denial and detachment, of escapism and even sanitized barbarity. So, what to do about it? What can I do? And this is where my Buddhist practice came in, or comes in, and at that moment was so amazing how I could see that because of my practice of Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism, I have the tools through which I can engage or do something about it, which is to embark on a fundamental change, an internal change. Something that my mentor, Isaac Ikeda, calls a human revolution. You know, for all the changes that we all know, and I'm so moved by all the messages today, so congruent, cause and effect, bringing the best of us. Isn't it all one connective thread through it all? Isn't it? Yes. The thing is that, for me, because I'm such a frail human being, it's been very useful to have a consistent practice. Now, Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha that we know, some of you might see it with the statue, others with the big belly. That's a historical Buddha. He wrote many teachings. But the last set of teachings, called the Lotus Sutra, is really the one that established the fact that all human beings possess the intrinsic potential for Buddhahood. So it's not an external being out there. We are all Buddhas. Buddha is a state of, is a life condition of life. And 2,500 years later in Japan, the Buddhist monk Nichiren established a very accessible practice for all people to tap into that Buddha, or that Buddha nature. And he did so by teaching us to invoke the title of the Lotus Sutra, which in his language at the time he translated as Myoho Renge Kyo, and the prefix in Sanskrit is Namu, or devotion to the mystic law, or Myoho Renge Kyo. So when we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is the law of cause and effect, we activate that Buddha nature. That doesn't mean that we become holier than thou, and once we are Buddhas, we stay Buddhas, because we have all kinds of conditions of life. We experience hell, hunger, animality, anger. We experience tranquility, we experience great joy or rapture. We experience that inquisitive mind to study, which we get in the world of learning. And when we understand certain things, we experience the world of realization. We can also experience the world of bodhisattva, which is, being devoted to the service of others and help people become happy and eradicate their suffering. And then we have Buddhahood, which is the state of life in which one can experience unlimited, unshakable happiness. Does that mean that there's an absence of problems? Absolutely not. But rather, by us and manifesting such Buddha nature, no matter what happens, no matter what comes our way, not only can we transcend it and endure it, but we can transform it so that we can create value. There's so much more I can say about that, but I would encourage you to go to sgi-usa.org, so you can go to the website. You can, at least I can share with you Nam Myoho Renge Kyo now. Is that okay with you? Okay, it's very simple. You say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So you repeat that over and over. Yes. I'm so tempted to keep chanting with you all the time. It's of the essence. So don't worry, you can do it very slowly. You can do whatever rhythm is not. Just think about something that you want to see, because this is not something that you believe and then it happens. So experiment with it, cause and effect, and see what happens. I'd like to share some words from, actually this one phrase from the Isaac Ikeda. A great revolution of character in just a single person will help achieve a change in the destiny of a nation, and further will cause a change in the destiny of all humankind. It is very tempting and very lovely and wonderful to be able to join together in worship on Sundays. How do we come together and worship Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? It happens that in Asian Buddhism we recite the sutra, some passages of the sutra, and invoke or chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo in the morning and the evening and any other time. But to what extent are we able to carry this message of hope, this message of unity in our daily lives? When we are angry, when we're frustrated, when we can see obviously that's the other person's fault, whatever we're going through, because they just did it to us. Like they did it to us in September 11, 10 years ago. They did it to us. Didn't they? This is not time for examinations of any other nature, but unity, however, whether we question the real causes of 9/11, whether we blame the terrorists or not. Do we blame our parents? Do we blame our spouses? Do we blame our co-workers? Do we blame ourselves? For you see, there's a difference between blaming ourselves and taking full responsibility. This is what I have learned through chanting, through practicing this Buddhism, that it is possible to take full responsibility in a way that can be empowering rather than being, ridden with the guilt. Oh, it's my fault. No, it's not my fault, it's my responsibility. And so it was that, as I mentioned, when I was at the 9/11 experience, I created these songs because I had to take responsibility so that I could somehow prevent things from happening. So as I was saying, as I started mentioning earlier, when I went to New York, that melody that I played for you, Let There Be Light, I was in St. Peter's Church right next to Ground Zero. And I felt that it's time to stand up and fight back. But it's not to fight back in war, but to stand up for that self-reformation. Then there was also another melody that came through at the New York City Community Church on Park Avenue. And at that time, as I was improvising in church and I was recording it, I was thinking of those who we had lost, those who had died in the attacks. And then I thought about life and death and what are, not just because of the attacks, but people, what happens, where are they when they're gone? And I found myself playing and asking those we have lost, how are you? How is it? What's going on? And somehow I heard them say, it's okay. Yes, we miss you too, but though it is natural that you should grieve, you must not grieve endlessly. You must overcome your sorrow, not only for yourself, but on our behalf as well. For you see, life is eternal.